Welcome, I'm the Movie Maniac, and today, since for the Halloween season, I'm going to talk about a movie, and a little bit of the series, that I genuinely like. I am a horror fanatic, otherwise known as a horror dork, and the film I'm going to be talking about is the Nightmare on Elm Street. No, not the original. The remake. Though, in all honesty, it's not a bad film, despite it was produced by Bay. But then again, he produced, so it's not his fault. But to explain this film, I need to go into a little bit more depth. I love Nightmare on Elm Street, and in all honesty, I don't hate this film. In all honesty, it's probably my third favorite, tied with the fourth. But the original is still better. Don't get me wrong, it really is. But it's hard to understand. Whenever I talk to people about this film, they either say it really sucks, because remakes have that tendency to suck. In my honest opinion, I have to disagree. Remakes don't always suck. The Nightmare on Elm Street movie is one of these examples for me. It's not a bad film. It's just not a great film. It follows the same formula as the original, and in all honesty, it does copy a lot of the Sorry, I really lose my words sometimes. It borrows a lot of aspects from the original, but then again, that's something a remake does. Everyone bashes on a remake for copying something, but then again, it's a remake. They sometimes need to borrow stuff from the original. It's called an homage. So, hurry on that one, fanboys. Now, I'm gonna talk first about the cast. First off, Chris. It's kind of like it's again kind of like how Tina was in the first film. You think she's gonna be the leading lady, but it's again someone else. It goes straight to Nancy. Chris is played by Kathy Cadisty, if I'm pronouncing her last name correctly. Forgive me if I'm not best at it. I like her. She's a good character. It sucks that she had to die, because she kind of reminds me of the Virgin who would live in a horror film. But, hey. And now we're getting to Jesse, her ex-boyfriend. Played by Thomas Dekker, and in all honesty, he was not well performed. In fact, throughout the whole time, I thought he was an asshole. No exaggeration, I thought he was an asshole. But when it came to the point where Krista died, and when he admitted he was an asshole, and when he's afraid of Freddy, that's when I feel he shined. It was good. But not my best. And I kind of noticed something with just the two actors there I met, with the two characters. They're named after two characters from the original films. Jesse from the second film. Jesse was the main character of the second film, and Chris, the leading lady of film 3, and partly of 4. But, hey, what you gonna do? I don't know, maybe I'm looking too much into it, but maybe it's true. Now, Dean, played by Keelan Lutz, I think his last name's pronounced. I don't have enough basis for him. He just seems like that guy who would get killed very early, in which, yes, he does. But there's not enough for me to go by for him, so I can't really give a good opinion. Now we're going for some of the main characters. Quinn, the Nancy's love interest. I don't get why all films need a love interest, and it's not needed all the time. He's played by Kyle Garner. He does play the role well. He's my second favorite actor in this film. He actually does. He plays his part really well. At first, I didn't like how he dressed. He kind of looked like an emo kid, but then it fixed itself out. And he's the one who actually gets the most insight within all of this. Now, Nancy. I respect Heather Langenkamp for her original performance. Granted, she wasn't the best actor, well, actress, but she played the role really well. Ronnie Mara, she wasn't bad, but she wasn't good. I mean, when she's afraid, you feel afraid with her. I'm not gonna lie there. It's the later half of the film where I feel as though she starts to shine. But, hey. Now, before I get to the main man himself, I'm going to talk about Nancy's mother real quick, because I think it's actually an important parallel. Gwen, I don't know Nancy's mom's name in the original film, so I'm not going into that. But Connie Britton is the concerned mother in this film, whereas Nancy's mom in the original was a drunk. She did show concern, but she was more of a drunk. And any opinion I have left for this, I'm going to save towards the end. Now for the main man himself, Freddy frickin' Krueger. Now, I was utterly disappointed with this. It's what almost broke the film for me. Jackie Earle Haley as Freddy did mix well. I couldn't distinguish him between, well, his role of Rorschach in Watchmen. It just felt too similar to the whole raspy Batman voice, which Rorschach did do. Now, granted, Robert Englund's the man. The original man himself, whew, he's the guy who brought me towards horror. And it's hard to fill out those boots, especially all things considered. But Jackie Earle Haley as Freddy wasn't the best choice. Is there someone who would have been better? I don't know. But it's already happened. Now, as means to the story. Now I'm talking about the story. The story is similar but different. Actually, it's almost a completely different story now, which remakes can do. This story makes a lot more sense, actually. The original film, yes, the parents kill Freddy, as they do here in the remake. And just because he was a child murderer and he was able to get out of jail time because of a technicality. But the kids didn't know him. And it's been established, especially in later films, that he needs people to know him. The kids didn't know him. That's where the remake better shines. The kids knew him before he died, so it actually makes more sense and why they would be more or less afraid of him. And it would actually make more sense that he'd be a freaking pedophile. Granted, I cringe at that note, but that actually would still make sense. But, overall, the story was better this time around. Don't harp on me for it. It's my honest opinion. But, in all honesty, the endings in each film, how each story took its approach, they were both serious. And I do like how the remake did try and take the seriousness back instead of the jokey Freddy that we get in later films from 3 and onward. Granted, it made him scary in some rights, but to pay homage to the original, you have to take to the seriousness rather than the joking. And I'm not gonna lie, there were some jokes in that film that were homages or just shoehorned in there from other films. Like the wet dream joke from 4 and You're in My World Now, Bitch from Freddy vs. Jason.
Except Freddy never said bitch once throughout the movie.
Yeah, that is a good point. That's something I'm actually a little sad about. I'm disappointed about it. Freddy never says bitch in this film. You think, because it's like it's his go-to word, bitch. It's a disappointment that it's Nancy who says it. She's the only one who says it. God. But the final fight in the original film was more or less Home Alone, despite, yes, Friday came first. Friday, Nightmare. Nightmare came first. God, I got horror on the mind. But, now the remake takes in a damn good direction as a more serious fight where they actually directly fight. But, the final fights of this film, of both films, it's the same where the mother gets killed, but the remake handles it 1,000 times better. It just, oh. Now, my final thoughts in this film are actually, I like the film still. It's not a good movie, but it's not a bad movie. I can't bring myself to hate this film. In all honesty, I can't bring myself to hate the Nightmare on Elm Street series, including the remake. But it's not guilty. I have different terms for a guilty pleasure. So, it's not guilty to me. I treat it as a good movie. I don't care if other people think it's shit. In all honesty, it's not. It's something I wish people would understand better, that remakes don't actually suck. They actually can be important, and I'll explain that in a different video. But as a final note, it's a good film. The acting is way better. It's almost a little better than the original. And it's more interesting. It's more story-driven. And when the characters feel legitimately afraid, you feel afraid with them. And they added in concepts that actually make sense. Like, if you stayed up too long, you would feel adverse effects, which is something I'm glad they explored in this film. Because you can't go forever without sleep. 3 days would probably be the limit. And, by God, the boyfriend of the movie, Quentin. I don't know what they had to make Kyle Gardner do, but damn, he took a lot of abuse in the last third act. I give the man credit. Props to you.
Might have had something to do with the adrenaline that
It was because of the adrenaline, but I was not gonna mention that. It can do that. Sorry. But, overall, it's not a bad movie. I'll give it a C-, C+ at the most. But, this film doesn't deserve all the hate it gets. In all honesty, well, you could argue it is a good movie. And it does live up to the legacy of the Nightmare saga. Because, in all honesty, not all the Nightmare films were top-notch. In fact, besides Freddy vs. Jason was a good film, the 3 prior to that weren't the best. Freddy's Dead, it was, again, okay, but this isn't the worst one. In my honest opinion, it's the second one. Because it deviates too much. But that's for another subject. But, again, this isn't a bad film. It doesn't deserve the hate it gets. This is the Movie Maniac, and thanks for watching. See you next time. And God, I hope if you guys suggest a movie, I'll do it. But I'm going to make one rule now. No crappy kids movies. I draw the line there. Have a good evening, and happy Halloween.